Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at how to balance a chemical equation, and there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different tutorials out there, but I'll just start with one and kind of do a little hodgepodge of what I usually do. So when you're first starting out with balancing equations, first of all, I have our equation here. If you're starting from scratch with like reactants or products or names, you got to make sure you have the right chemical formulas first. So in this case, our chemical formulas are fine, but for example, if you didn't know it was CaF2, you want to make sure that you check your charges. So we know that Ca is 2 plus, and we know that fluorine is 1 minus. So it makes sense that there's CaF2, just 2 fluorines for every 1 calcium. Second thing when you first start out is I always like just putting the elements underneath the arrow. So if I'm breaking down this compound, I know I have calcium, I know I have fluorine, I know I have H, hydrogen, and then this is where it's tricky. You could break it down in S and O, or because this polyatomic ion is the same on both sides, I'm going to keep that together. It's a little advanced tip or top secret tip, whatever you want to call it. So I have those together. That way you don't have to count them out separately and it gets all messy. So again, that you can only do that if they're on both sides as the same polyatomic ion. All right, so now we just do a quick account. One on each side here, 2 fluorines here, 1 there, 2 hydrogens there, 1 here, 1 sulfate here, 1 sulfate there. So we see that we're not balanced with the fluorines and hydrogens. Generally, you want to save the hydrogens or oxygens for last. So I'm going to go ahead and do my fluorines here. I'll change this to 2. Now, whenever I change something on the bottom, I have to change something up top. So I'm going to put a 2 in front here. Note, I can only change what's called the coefficients. I cannot put a 2 down there because what that will do is that will change the compound itself. So I've got to put a 2 here. Now, what that does, of course, is change that hydrogens to 2, which in this case is great. That solves my equation and balances everything. But if it didn't, then I would kind of go back and forth until I get the right coefficients for everything. So if I didn't touch these, they have 1s. You don't have to put those in, but just for emphasis here, those are all 1s right there. So this is a quick example of how to balance a chemical equation. Again, you want to make sure you have the right chemical formulas first. You then want to take a quick count of the different types, do an inventory of the types of elements you have. You can keep polyatomic ions together if they're the same on both sides. Do a quick counting, how many of each do you have, and then start balancing. Again, balancing maybe your less common elements first, go back and forth until you have the same number of atoms on both sides, always making sure you're changing the coefficients only, always making sure you're distributing so that you know that you have the correct number on each. Okay, balancing chemical equations.